Welcome to Reggae Open University. It's Reggae Month. And of course, we're talking about financial stability in the entertainment industry. It's so important. It's been a topic on a lot of entertainers' minds. But how do we get that? With me, I have two stalwarts in the industry, two musicians, plus a long list of the things that they are, who will help us to look at, first of all, I feel like we want to lay the groundwork. What are the challenges and how we can make sure that we're able to be stable as entertainers in this industry. Welcome to the conversation. We have Ewan Simpson, and of course, we have our other panel with us as well, Steve Golding. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I think it's important, I'll start with you, Ewan. What are some of the challenges that we've observed in the industry as it relates to financial stability? I'm going to go to both of you. I think it's a good groundwork to lay there.
Indeed. Financial wellness is a perennial problem with entertainers globally. The whole development of the copyright industry was an issue of money with writers in the first place. How do we end up earning from that which we create? Because there's a global perspective that creatives, that artists must be poor in order to be legitimate. There's this perspective that is held in too many quarters, that artists must be poor or struggling in order to be real, in order to come from the soil, in order to give.
Be authentically a musician or an artist.
Exactly. And it is as farcical as a few other things, which will get me into politics. So let's leave it alone for now. But the reality is that if we look at the templates that have been set by others, there is a reason why Bob Marley said that his seed will not beg bread, right? He understood what the perspective was and decided he was going to break that mold. There are so many other performers globally who have broken the mold. The challenge is that for us in the Jamaican space, we have multiple layers of issues to deal with. We have a society that still believes in the main that creatives are outcasts. Creatives are outcasts that they bring into the center for the purpose of entertaining themselves as court jesters. We don't really take them seriously. And so we have that. And then we have systems that are not in place. And I'm going to talk about the banking systems that are not friendly to creatives and creative business people. Because it's not just the artists themselves. The artists themselves are products that create products.
Right.
But there's a system, a banking system, a transportation system, a visa system,
a plethora of challenges.
An education system that does not provide the support services. How many attorneys really understand the business of entertainment? How many bankers and investors understand the business of entertainment? How many teachers understand? How many medical practitioners understand the entertainer's body and the entertainer's lifestyle and so on? But I will leave some of the quarreling for Steve to do for me. He's been at it longer than me.
Thank you, though, for laying that groundwork from first the perspective of earning it. So intellectual property, how do you make sure what you've created, you're able to collect from it? And then you raise some issues of, now that I've collected from my intellectual property, how can it be sustained within the ecosystem? How can I connect with other players in this system to make sure that that earning is multiplied and kept? But we're going to pause it there as a first groundwork, and we're going to go to you to tell us, from your observation, you've been in the space for more than a minute. What have you observed to be some core issues as it relates to financial health and stability in the entertainment industry?
I think Ewan said it all, to be quite honest. Ignorance, and this business that you have to wear the poverty like a badge, to be authentic. So it's very important, I think, that we have this type of dialogue around, okay, what do I do? Because the assumption is that even with the intellectual property protected, there's going to be some big windfall. There usually isn't, there is something like, Ewan has the figures, I'm sure, something like some 1% of everything that is recorded that becomes a mega hit. Think about that. And there are millions and millions of songs recorded. But there are other ways, and there are other areas, live performances. There are some artists, Jamaican artists too, who have quote unquote made it, who have never been much on the recording side. So it's really to understand the industry of which we are a part. And I think, like I said, the only word I can think of is ignorance. So we need to have an education system that addresses all that there is about the entertainment business. It's not just the person on stage. I know stage managers. I've had the privilege of meeting touring managers, tour managers who are multi-millionaires from just being tour managers. So it's to understand the industry fully, that we hope we can get to in these next few minutes.
So what I'm hearing from our conversation is that the first step is to know.
Exactly.
As an artist or as an entertainer, what are the opportunities to allow me to be financially well? That's the first thing. But then the other thing is, when I know what are the opportunities, is there an ecosystem that exists that will support that knowledge that I have?
Maybe not an ecosystem. I don't even know what the term ecosystem means, to be quite honest. There are structures, I see a good friend of mine, Mikey Bennett, in the audience, and we actually wrote a paper, called Music and You. This one man can do everything, it really takes a team, right? And that's why I have not used the word entertainer just yet, because we have to understand that there are structures that can be put in place, right? And these team players, you mentioned lawyers, attorneys, and so forth and so on, managers, people who understand the industry and all that is involved in making an artist thrive. So I believe long before, because the artist starts the process, but long before we get to the well-being of the artist has to understand that there are structures, whether it is endemic, whether it is instilled in our educational system or not. There are things in place that can guide, and hopefully at some point, the officialdom will catch on. We can't keep waiting on them to do it for us.
We have to create it for ourselves.
Yes.
And you're both educators, but I'm going to go to you on to say, from that education perspective, twofold, from the entertainers or artists or industry professionals, how do they access that necessary education that will allow them to be able to understand and act on that understanding in relation to their financial wellness? That's one fold. I'm just going to go to you first and then I'll share the other.
Very well. So the first thing is that the institutions that teach support skills for the entertainment industry kind of have their hands tied. And I give kudos to the University of the West Indies, because they have an entertainment arts, for want of a better word, system in the Institute of Caribbean Studies. The Edna College has an arts management program. The University of Technology has a program as well. But these programs are not as robust in the support they receive from even these institutions. Good. What is the extent of the opportunities for these students? Where are the scholarship programs for these students? How far can they take it? Can they go to the master's level? Can they go to the PhD level? What is the system that makes a little girl from Westmoreland think that she, in high school, can... Steve mentioned somebody being a tour manager and being a multimillionaire. How many little girls in Westmoreland or little boys in Clarendon know that if they take this thing seriously, if they study business management, if they don't have to become a bank manager, that they can actually invest their educational time in something to do with the entertainment industry? How many little boys and little girls know that if they study physics, that their involvement in electronics and in setting up systems for, if people understood what it took to put a stage up and keep it safe, they would understand that that's a lot of physics, it's a lot of science. How many of our people are investing in that, in lighting? You get what I'm saying? We have to teach our people that it is as noble to be that as it is to be a doctor or a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? And if the system doesn't teach us that, we will always get either the rebels doing it just to prove that it can be done, or the people who think they have nothing else to do.
As the extra job that you do because you didn't get anything else.
Absolutely.
And we all know here, and the record, that Jamaica, well, Kingston, is a designated city of music by UNESCO.
Indeed.
And we celebrate our entertainment and our music across the world.
Or the world celebrates our entertainment and our music.
I'm glad I said that.
Yes. So that's the thing. How do we take ourselves seriously enough to invest in ourselves? How do we start to write the books as opposed to allowing others to write the books about us? Good? I mean, Steve mentioned the paper he has done with Mikey and so on, and we have been trying to work on some other things. But how many of our academicians seriously look at it, seriously write for the rest of the world? Where is the roadmap for young people coming into entertainment so they can understand that a manager is not an albatross? So that they can understand that a manager is not an expense, but a manager is a facility to organize what you are doing. To understand that a musical director and an artistic director, all of which Bob Marley had, by the way, since we like to use Bob Marley as a template, right? That these people, creative directors, are a part of what makes you a better product.
Yes.
That going to a voice teacher is not a waste of your time. That going to somebody to teach you poise and to teach you how to do an interview is not a waste of your time or resources, but it's preparing you as to be a better product. Like our athletes, some of them took a long time to learn it, but some of them were at the top of our game. If we go back to look at a junior championships interview versus now, right, we will see that it took some curve bending to get them there. And it is important we understand that for us to be able to market this product, there has to be an investment of effort, facilities. There has to be. And there has to be an investment of purpose. So we're going to get into the issue of policy and all of those things. That is also necessary. But again, I'm quarreling, sorry.
And it's the thing is that we have to realize that it's not going to happen overnight.
Of course.
I'm glad you used the athletic example. It's a famous, it's a popular comparison that we do. You know, from prep, primary, you're watching the second youth, look good, ting, 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 right through high school, right through. And where is that for entertainment? You know, and understanding that it is not just about the person who is in the limelight, but there is a support mechanism that is as viable, is as vibrant, you know, as the 20 minutes, the half hour, the 1 hour on stage.
And I think it's a good segue for us to talk about, I'm a musician, I'm watching the show, I'm listening to both of you who are seasoned in the industry, and you're telling me, hey, I need to go and take advantage of the other people in the space who know about this thing. Where do I go? That sounds good to me. What is that practical step that I take? I'm going to go to you, Steve. What is that step that musicians can take? Where do I start with this information that you're sharing with me?
There have been several initiatives to start directories and all of that. One of the unfortunate things is, and there's a reason why collective management societies worldwide are not government organizations. There's a distrust of officialdom, right? So the first thing to do is for you tell a man to register for something, him thinks because you want to pay tax. You know, so we have to be very clear that as a citizen, if you want to access these things, there are certain things you have to do. No, it's not a government thing. We're not trying to take away your thing, right? But there's a Ewan Simpson, there's a Mikey Bennett, there's a whomever who has been in this business, who understands that aspect of the thing as well. Have a chat with them. You know, admit that you don't know. It is not given to any one of us to know everything.
Exactly. And these industries will allow you to be able to access different services that you couldn't by yourself.
Exactly.
Can you name some of them that are important for anyone who is interested in the entertainment industry, whether it's that little girl from a Clarendon High School or a musician who's saying, listen, I need to get out into this space? Can you share a few of them which are important?
So let me start at home. The Jamaica Reggae Industry Association. www.jamaica. So JaRIAentertainment.com is where is one of the places you can go. But then there's also JCAP, right? So the Jamaica Association of Composers, Authors and Publishers. There is JAMS. Now they are two collecting societies that understand the ecosystem, even though it's a word that Steve doesn't know.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but we're talking about how do we make sure that they are financially well. We'll be right back.
My name is Alfred Ibilian Brissett. Welcome to Veggie Meals and Wheels, the No Bone Zone. It's an oasis in Crossroads. Crossroads is where uptown meet downtown. The good thing about Veggie Meals and Wheels, if you are in the office under the AC, you just want to come out and relax under the beautiful canopy of the beautiful skies and trees, Veggie Meals and Wheels is a place to be. For good idle food, good food equal good mood. I am really appreciative of the farmers here in Jamaica because I think more vegetables is being grown and can utilize in a meal. Our menu have evolved over the years based on our customer review and because, as you know, customer come first. So now we're sticking closer to the natural foods like fruits and vegetables we incorporate in the food. Not too much processed food. Every day we have a different stew. Alternative to rice, which is bulgur, couscous or quinoa. And also, don't forget, ground food is what we have here a lot in Jamaica. Yam, Irish, sweet potato. So with all that infused in one dish, you actually get a balanced meal. If you come to Veggie Meals and Wheels, you will definitely get a taste of reggae because the chef is cooking the food, listening to reggae music each and every day. And I believe that food and music share the same stage. When you step inside Veggie Meals and Wheels, on any given day, you can come and meet the likes of Chronix, Protege, Leela, Ike, even Tony Rebel. We actually do shows as well. So like recently, we have Rebel Salute, you have Protege, have a show coming up. The 14 parishes of Jamaica, we travel around as Veggie Meals and Wheels, and we do show and catering. And of course, sometimes you might say vegan food is actually boring and stuff, but the good thing is that this is the joint that meat eaters love to come and have their meals because how the meal is prepared, if you actually be traditionally eating meat, you won't miss it because the flavors, the sauce, and the taste is just like how your grandmother used to cook your Sunday dinner. You're here all in a high-tal vibes with Ibilian at Veggie Meals and Wheels, the No Bone Zone, and it's a taste of reggae here each and every day.
Welcome back to the conversation. We're talking about how to be financially well in the entertainment industry. We're talking to Ewan Simpson and Steve Golden. But of course, let me take a moment to thank our sponsors for allowing us to have this Reggae Open University. We want to say thank you to the Urban Development Corporation, JaRIA Nephew, who is a title sponsor, Chase Fund, Niche Entertainment Group Limited, Digital Video Concepts, Spur Open, Sparkles Production, and Creation Foods. Thank you so much for allowing us to have this very important conversation about the entertainment industry. Before we took a break, you were talking about organizations that are important for entertainers to be a part of because one of the issues is, I don't know what to do.
Correct.
And if you don't know what to do, there are other people who do know what to do.
Indeed.
How do you connect with those people if you don't know them personally? How do you make sure that you are part of a group? And I've been using the word ecosystem, and I think for the purpose of this conversation, we're talking about what are those different elements, bodies, peoples, policies that all work together as a group to make sure that this entertainment space that we're in is viable and productive and beneficial to everyone involved. So I'm going to go back to you, Yuan, to talk to us about some of those organizations that you were mentioning, and we continue the conversation to see how we can propel to a change in the space.
Indeed. So as I mentioned before, there is JaRIA, that's an umbrella association, but then there are collecting societies, which are also affiliates in themselves. And by the way, JaRIA is not a government entity, and I want to say that, to make that very clear. And for a similar reason, as Steve mentioned earlier, people's general distrust of officialdom, of things government, whether it is founded or not, that is not what we're coming to argue. We're saying that people need to also understand that the organization comes from the people and belongs to the people and is not polarized, because that's also important. Regardless of where the democracy swings, it is important that the organization remains true to itself. Now, so there's JCAP, there's JAMS, there's JFMAU, it's a union. And there are other unions as well that have come up in more recent time. But then there are also associations like Java, which is for vintage artists.
Right.
And then there are other organizations in the entertainment industry that deal with film and animation, that deal with actors, that deal with dancers, that deal with poets, that deal with sound systems. So whichever area you are in, you can search, you can find them, and you can start the conversation there. The truth is that our industry is only as healthy as its organizations. So you can do a diagnosis.
Absolutely. And also the organizations, as you mentioned, are made up of the people.
Indeed.
We are all collaborating and coming together. You are a founding member of JCAP. What would you say are some challenges as it relates to how entertainers are taking access of some of these resources that are provided by these organizations, or how can they do that even more? Plus, obviously these organizations who are not government related need support. How can they be supported in the space to ensure that they're offering to us what we require? So that's a twofold question.
Collective management organizations, by their very nature, are for the practitioners in the particular industry. JCAP, songwriters, publishers, and things. And there are organizations, JAMS, and international entities like PPL and Harry Fox that are for producers and publishers and things.
Right.
The very nature of these organizations, and these are managed, instituted by UN Charter, in terms of how they must be structured. Okay. So the membership, is the very basis, the final authority, right? All of these organizations are membership organizations. That's the first thing. And persons need to know that if you become a member of this, you attend your general meetings, you elect who you want to represent you in fora like these, et cetera, et cetera. So that has to be made very clear. So them boy there and that thing there, it's unfortunately the JFMAU is going through a tough time now because at that same point. I'm sorry if ignorance has become my catchword for the day, but we really need, as Yuan said, to just find out about these things, read more about these things, hear more about these things. I mean, persons come to us daily, and say, boy, that tune you me did write it, this thing is me to do it, blah, 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 blah. The conversation starts and they have something else to go and do. We don't take the time to find out about ourselves, So the responsibility ultimately is on the person who is being maligned, unfortunately, and you really have to find out. There's no going around it. There must be someone that you trust, person, teacher, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, who you trust, who you can say, if you don't understand yourself. Go talk to the brother there up at JaRIA, Mr. Simpson, the Rasta from down at JCAP. I'm named Steve Golden. Just ask. right? We cannot, our very nature is that we cannot refuse to pass on this information. We cannot, right? We are bound by these international statutes to share this information.
Absolutely. And I often say anyone who is either an artist, a creative, an entertainer, has to have a level of reverence for what they do. And so much so that whatever it takes to either understand what you're doing, either connecting with who you need to connect with, protecting what you need to protect, then it stands with you to get that out there.
If I may, Jam Copy.
Yes.
Right, I remember when Jam Copy was just formed, they invited me, you know, to become a member. Invited might be the wrong word. So I said, but I'm not writing a book. So I said, those songs don't have lyrics.
They have words.
I didn't know that at the time, right? I am a member of Jam Copy, right? So
me too.
even the lyric that you write for your song, you know, can be protected. So it's twofold.
Yes.
You're a member of JCAP, right? So the lyric is a part of a song, a musical composition that makes it a song. But also, persons might use his lyric in the newspaper and so forth and so on, for whatever reason, right? Jam Copy. So there are so many other ways that we can look into our creative effort, you know. But again, as you said, you have to check it out for yourself.
Yes, it's understanding that body of music, all the different elements that make it up.
Exactly.
And as you mentioned protecting, I'm going to go back to you, Yuan, because initially you laid out some of the challenges related to policies around intellectual property, and also in our space, like what does that mean versus on the international landscape? How are we treating it here, and what are some things that we need to be doing differently?
So let me start with the absence of an entertainment policy in Jamaica. For a country whose diamond is entertainment, for a country whose greatest competitive advantage is the people and their creativity, it is amazing that we have policies for everything else. We have policies for things that are very foreign to who we are, but we don't have a policy that helps us to coalesce around our greatest asset. It is amazing. And so whether the policy is to come from the Ministry of Culture, or it is to come from the Ministry of Finance, or it is supposed to come from economic growth and job creation,
needs to come from
or
somewhere.
it is to come from industry, investment and commerce, wherever it is to come from, it needs to come to facilitate the business of creativity. Because creatives, there are all sorts of philosophical reasonings around creativity, but one of the central things is that the creative must be able to live from his art. And so if the creative is supposed to be able to live from the art, then systems must support it.
That.
Systems must support the creative surviving in that period when the art is not earning. Creatives must also be able to get the support that they need from others, because, as Steve said earlier, no man is an island, literally. If you are a painter, you don't also make canvas.
Exactly. Or the paint.
Or the paint, or the easel. And you may not own a gallery.
And you need someone to be able to market it for you, to show it somewhere.
And you can't sell it to yourself. So people need to appreciate that there needs to be a system that is able to support that. So it is critical. What does the banking system provide for someone who earns cyclically? If you are to take a loan, do you have to pay every month, or can you pay every 6 months? You know what I'm saying? If you are to take a loan, what is the collateral that you will use? There has been talk, and there is a system, and there is legislation that is suggesting a leaning toward allowing you to use your IP as collateral. But how serious is that drive? How many institutions are taking that on? Good? And if we just took a moment to understand, yes, we may just have 1% of songs that actually become hits. But the truth is, and Mikey Bett will tell you, and Steve will tell you, that the song doesn't have to be a hit for it
to be valuable.
For it to generate, right.
To generate solid revenue. And there are so many different levels at this point in time. There's gaming, there's advertising, You know, there's licensing for movies. There's all sorts of different spaces within which your IP can earn for you. It can be used in education. Good? So we need to start to look at all the streams, literally. The contributaries, you have to forgive my geography, but the contributaries that lead into that river of an income, right? They are many and they are varied. And I'm going to say one thing that might be a little controversial, but I'm sure that at least two people in here will agree with me. And again, is Steve and Mikey. You don't have to be a superstar. If you are an amazing writer, for God's sakes, write. Because there are people out there who are great singers who don't have a single writing bone in their body. And then that allows everybody
to be a part of
the earning ecosystem. If you are amazing at logistics, become a tour manager so that you are bringing the artist on the road, giving the artist more exposure, so the songs of the writer and the work of the artist now get more exposure, and that becomes a greater income stream. Good? If you are good with your hands, if you are good orally, become a musical director, become an artistic director to build that product that then causes everybody else to earn.
And because we are talking about how now we can be financially well as entertainers, we spoke a bit about the banking system, the other financial systems that are not catching up as fast as we need them to. Is our next step to take advantage of those on the international space that will allow us to earn from what we are already producing while we create systems here? What's that next step?
We too hurriedly look outside of ourselves. We really too hurriedly look outside of ourselves. I was looking at a video just yesterday, that someone sent me. This Kenyan young man was talking about these developments by the Kenyan version of Silicon Valley and all the creative stuff. And he was talking to a set of European investors. Why? Right? The richest continent, 40% of all the world's minerals, precious, semi-precious, and otherwise, are found on the African continent. The young man, Traore, in Burkina Faso, has taken the time to say to his people, let us look at ourselves. They have an electric car, totally homemade. We too quickly look outside of ourselves, and like Ewan said, let us explore, but let us put the policies in place, right? I remember attending a conference at UWI one time, and there was an attorney visiting from abroad, and his firm did, what's the term, pro bono? They did free work. Sorry,
yes, pro bono.
Legal people. Right? So every artist who signs with that company agreed to a 15%, 20%, whatever. Only 1% of all those persons who have signed will become that. But the income, because of that arrangement, can keep the thing floating. Our attorneys in Jamaica laughed themselves silly when the gentleman said that. Can't do free work. So the first thing you hear every time you go somewhere is, boy, you have to get a lawyer, Get a lawyer from where? It's a bigger drive. Come here, how am I going to get a lawyer?
And so pay them with what?
Exactly. So policies that encourage, other industries to become a part of this cultural richness that is the truth about Jamaica, would be beneficial, rather than looking to outside of ourselves for investors.
Thank you for that. And we've been talking about how entertainers can take advantage of the different opportunities to earn. But as you alluded to in some of your comments, their income can be very unpredictable. What are some suggestions or tips we might say to manage that, to still maintain that financial wellness while,
during the MAGA period.
During the MAGA period. Thank you for that.
With the Ben Johnson period. Well, one of the things that we need to do is to appreciate the value of planning. Farmers know when their crops come in. But they also know that June is a rainy month. And some things might just happen. We might have hurricane season. And they plan for storage. And they plan for early reaping if necessary. They plan these things. They also intercrop. They know that the peanut going to come in before the mango. They know how it will fold. And they plant at different heights, which again is why I say, you may be a writer, but let's take a Bob Andy if we don't want to take a baby face, because it's kind of similar. Yes.
On that note, we're going to take a short break, but we're talking about how do you ensure that you are financially well in the entertainment industry, specifically on those MAGA days, MAGA periods. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is David Tapper. I'm owner of Fireside Jerk. We are essentially a quick service restaurant and that specializes in jerk meals. We have been here since 2009 in Clarendon and recently Harmony Beach Park in Montego Bay. We offer breakfast in the mornings at 6 a.m. along with our convenience store. We also offer like seafood dishes. We have our homemade seasonings that we use here. We have our homemade condiments, our pepper sauces and our jerk sauce that we use to complement all of the dishes that we serve. At Fireside, our motto is where good food, friends and family meet. So our atmosphere here at Fireside is a very relaxing and laid-back atmosphere that we offer to customers. Food is very important to Jamaica. That's one of the things that Jamaica has been known for, food, music and culture. And here at Fireside, we try to embody all of those experiences into one melting pot to let our customers have a superior experience at all times. Hi, my name is David Tapper, and this is Fireside, and this is a taste of reggae.
Welcome back to Reggae Open University. We are talking about health, financial wellness in the entertainment industry. And before we took a break, you were just about telling us, how do we make sure that we have money, finance is good in those slow periods, in those MAGA periods? We go back to you, Yuan.
So I was making the point, and I was using Bob Andy versus Babyface, but I could use them both. So they are performers in their own right. And they are earning, whether from cabaret or from doing shows overseas or from doing wherever, but they are also writers, not just writing for themselves, but for others. That means when your career is not at its peak, somebody else for whom you're writing might have a career at its peak. It's still streams of income. This principle that they have in business where they say diversify your income streams is just as good for those in entertainment as it is outside of that. So we need to think about it, right? I know Steve has an example that he wants to bring. We'll chat about afterwards.
I will bridge it.
Yes. So, but the reality is that we have to understand that it is not every day that we're going to be in a windfall. Good? And so when I mentioned the intercropping example before, I was making that point that sometimes that what we invest in when we earn a whack is important, because we must invest in something which will pay us when we are not earning from something else, right? And so, yes, it is nice to have 15 different German cars in your garage, but there comes a point when you can't use the car to buy fuel for the other 14. You know what I'm saying? There's a time when you can't use the car to pay for the food that you need in the 12-bedroom house that you have, even though you only live with one baby mother or a wife. You know what I'm saying? So it is important for you to organize the assets that you have in a way. Good? But how do we get that to happen? How do we get the formal business sector to appreciate that the artist is a product that produces a product? They're both products. If we don't do that, then we leave the product to manage itself, and then we blame it for its failure. So if the artist doesn't know that he needs not just a personal manager, but a business manager, somebody who understands the movement of money, somebody who understands the principles of taxes and taxation, so that you don't end up believing you have, and the government believes
that they have.
They have.
And truly do, and then you're left with nothing.
And then you're left with nothing. Good?
You know.
So how do we put those systems in place? How do we allow, and every successful businessman ever, really successful one, will tell you that he built his business using somebody else's money. But if the creative industries does not have access to someone else's money, then we are literally resigning all our creatives to this struggling, pauperized, barefoot artist.
Can somebody knock on wood, please? Because we are not accepting that in this conversation. Thank you. And on the helm of you mentioning success, earlier, Steve, we were in conversation and you have shared with us that the space has taken the examples of success
to be an exception.
To be an exception. And not an example for us to follow. And we talk about the Bob Marleys and all of those who they're successful in the music industry, but they're just the exception. That's how it's being viewed. How do we go around that? How do we combat that narrative?
Education. You see, one of the things is that we think that ignorance is the exclusive privilege of the creative, of the artist. Ignorance, unfortunately, is all pervasive. Because if our corporate world, if our officials, if our governors, had that vision, shared our vision, then the policies would be in place and so forth and so on. So it's all well and good to say, Bob is the exception, it's not going to happen, right? At the start, I had the privilege of working with the I3 when Bob went on the road in 1980. And this tour manager, whose name I don't remember, maybe it's just as well, he said to him at the start of the tour, now we're talking pre-laptop, we're talking computers were referred to as mainframe and all that stuff. You had rooms where computers were held. And I remember Bob saying to the tour manager, we know the people, and them only paper. We just want to know what go on. Halfway through the tour, Viv, I think it's Viv Phillips is his name, brought one sheet of paper, and gave to Bob and said, this is where we are. And Bob could I tell you who buys shoes, who take money, who buy a glass of water. He could tell you everything that was happening in language that he understood from a tour manager of international repute, right? So his instructions were clear and they were carried out, right? We need to say, how come in 1980 that can happen and now in 2025 it's not happening, right? So ask, you know, I mean, Sidela sits atop the empire now, you know, I don't know that she's unavailable, I don't have personal access, but I mean, there are persons who do, you know, how do you do it? How do you maintain this thing that your father started? Make it become a part of the ecosystem that you speak of.
Oh, thank you.
Right?
At least the curriculum.
Yeah, at least the curriculum. You know, so people can see how it is done, how it can be done, right? And I don't know what Mikey's topic will be during his interview, but please ask him, because he's a living example, you know, of how handling and managing your affairs properly can lead to success, you know. I mean, he has had the privilege of producing, you know, many artists that we revere. You know, how come as a songwriter, which is the point you was making, we don't have to be in front of the camera, you know, so we don't have to, all have to be in the limelight. This industry employs, I remember one time during a musicians week, I think it was Tommy Cowan who was speaking, and he said that, you know, that musicians have more invested in this country than a lot of these hotel owners. People laughed him to scorn, you know, and we did it. I just can't find the papers now. We went around and we collected cost of the bass, cost of the bass amp, cost of the keyboards, the car that you drive, and the actuaries do have a clue about how Jamaican entertainers treat them property and so forth and so on. And it turned out we produced the figures, you know, that showed how much money Jamaican musicians had invested in the country just through their equipment.
Yeah.
Now, most musicians would rather spend on their equipment than give the baby man the money, than do that part that Yuan is speaking about. It has to be both. It has to be both, you know.
And that's a great segue to you mentioning, Yuan, how having different streams of income will allow you to stay afloat during those times when your main choice of entertainment is not as fast as you want it to be. But then when you do have those different streams of income, how do you invest it?
Exactly.
And we already have
What
the
do you
challenge
do?
of the financial institutions not allowing you to make certain investments. How do we get around that?
But when you would have learned these lessons, when you would have learned these lessons, they don't have a problem taking them away
Correct.
from you.
Correct.
So now you are Mr. Simpson or Mr. Golden because you have brought this money to their institution to invest. That there were no policies in place to help you make that money in the first place is something, you know, for governments and the corporate world to deal with. But you must learn, you come back to the point that Yuan made. Find the institution that supports what you do, find a team, build your team that supports what you do, and then manage your resources properly.
Because you see, you're only going to get called into private banking when you're successful. Yes? And I want to say this, and it is important for those who, every now and then I will sit in a conversation with a businessman or a businesswoman, with a thought leader in government or private sector. And they will say, oh, what are you fellas going to do about the state of the industry? Or what are you going to do about the rubbish that is being peddled as music? And I always take pains to say to them, the industry will give regard to that which supports it. And so, if it is scamming money, that is the resource base for the majority of the content that is being created, then the content that is being created is going to give regard
To
what is happening
to
in the
what supports it. Good.
important point.
And so if we want the content to speak positivity, if we want the content to talk about how beautiful the people of the country are and what the possibilities are for positivity and equal rights and justice, then a system of equal rights and justice
needs to
Must
exist.
pertain.
Because an artist speaks what they experience.
correct.
Exactly.
And not only exist, it needs to support the entertainment industry. So So yes, I'm talking about what the individual artists can do, but I also have to talk about what those who are looking on and who are very critical of the industry, saying, oh, he's only scamming and we don't want to hear this. I spoke to somebody earlier today and I'm saying, how can you support the industry? And they say, cha, I don't know, make no more good music again. So but at the same time, they will go and they will take content from overseas to advertise their product. Or they will use the best that exists here to advertise their product. Why do you use it? Because it has value. Because it still speaks to people. And so if we understood that, you see, I keep saying to people, every time we have a mega concert, whether it is a festival or a one-night concert, every time we have a mega concert, the entire economic system gets
Uplifted.
gets a lifeblood. And so I've always said, and I'm going to say it again here on the record, Jamaica has the potential to be the festival capital of the world.
Easily.
Pause there. On that thought, I would like to hear from both of you sharing what you would say are the top 2, 3, if you will, points that you would want us to take away from how to get financial wellness and the importance of it in the industry. We've been talking a lot about education, collaborating with those who are in the space, making sure that there are policies in place, and respecting what you do as an entertainer. What are those things? We're gonna probably just take one from both of you, share with us, what are those top things? I'll go with you first.
You owe it to yourself as someone in the industry, don't care where you are, to learn about the industry. JaRIA and the institutions that we have named cannot refuse to give you the information, come and ask. So you come to JCAP and you ask about the recording industry. We have to find out about it to let you know if you're a member of JCAP, right? Join the organization that suits your particular sphere of activity and badger them. They are obligated to pass the information on.
Thank you for that.
It is important that we activate a culture of community and selflessness. It segues from what Steve is saying. You go to an organization for a reason, the organization must exist. But you also need to see yourself as part of a system that is going to work. So you're going to share the information that you have so that you can share the income that you will receive. Good? And when my friend is earning, I might not be earning. When I am investing in something that you are doing, if I'm writing for you, this song might not hit today, but it may hit at a time when I am not earning.
And I need it at that moment.
And I need it at that time, and then the royalties are coming in. The concept of residual income is something that we need to appreciate. That is one. And two, we need to speak. We need to open our mouths and lobby for the things that will provide the industry. So policy and facilities. I know I'm talking long, but I need to say this. It is a shame that Jamaica, the mecca of reggae in the world, and the cultural capital of, at the very least, the Caribbean, does not have a single state-of-the-art performing arts space.
Center.
On that note, we want to express gratitude to both of you for sharing your knowledge, for helping us to understand the importance, one, of financial wellness in the entertainment industry and how we can get it. Thank you again for joining us for Reggae Open University. We'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors for making this possible: the Urban Development Corporation, JaRIA Nephew, Chase Fund, Niche Entertainment Group, Digital Video Concepts, Spur Open, Sparkles Production, and Creation Foods. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good day.
Hi, my name is David Tapper. I'm owner of Fireside Jerk. We are essentially a quick service restaurant and that specializes in jerk meals. We have been here since 2009 in Clarendon and recently Harmony Beach Park in Montego Bay. We offer breakfast in the mornings at 6 a.m. along with our convenience store. We also offer like seafood dishes. We have our homemade seasonings that we use here. We have our homemade condiments, our pepper sauces and our jerk sauce that we use to complement all of the dishes that we serve. At Fireside, our motto is where good food, friends and family meet. So our atmosphere here at Fireside is a very relaxing and laid-back atmosphere that we offer to customers. Food is very important to Jamaica. That's one of the things that Jamaica has been known for, food, music and culture. And here at Fireside, we try to embody all of those experiences into one melting pot to let our customers superior experience at all times. Hi, my name is David Tapper, and this is Fireside, and this is a taste of reggae.